Secretary Pastana, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, you may. I am here. Ms. Grzymkowski.
Here.
Ms. Dodd.
Here.
Ms. Cotter.
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Present. Here.
And Mr. Dimick.
Here.
And Mr. Wiseman.
I'm here.
Excellent.
Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I have approval of agenda, I'd like to thank everyone here tonight for attending our Huron Valley School Board of Education meeting. During the meeting, we welcome Huron Valley School community input and comments. If you have any comments or concerns regarding an agenda or non-agenda item, please fill out the requested information form that is over by the entrance door and hand it to Lori Hill, our board secretary, administrative secretary. Generally, participants will have 3 minutes to present their comments when recognized by the Board of Education president. During this time, we do not get into dialogue. This is an opportunity for our citizens to speak at a board meeting as it relates, as I said, to agenda or non-agenda items. I will assure you, though, that all the comments are listened to, and where appropriate, those comments or requests will be turned over to our superintendent for appropriate follow-up. So with that, could I have approval of the agenda for tonight?
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
Support. All right. We have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
And Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next, communications and report. I have a brief report from my desk. Tomorrow, I know our superintendent and our assistant superintendent will be talking about Professional Development Day that will be held for professional staff tomorrow. I do want to, though, take a moment to thank our Board of Education, our superintendent and coach for participating in our own Board of Education Professional Development Day this past Friday. We spent the entire day really taking a look at the Board of Education as a whole, the operation of the Board of Education as it related to being a highly functioning board focused on student achievement. And the purpose of that self-assessment was to really increase our understanding and commitment as a board in how it relates to performance improvement via board self-assessment. We had a lot of opportunities to have a discussion as it related to that. 4 of our learning goals that day were to understand the indicators of an effective board governance team, to review the board assessment process that we all participated in. We also identified the 10 benefits and steps that were needed, and the cycle, including board goals. At our next Board of Education meeting, we as a board, and I as president of the board, will be presenting to the entire community part of the process and the board goals that were discussed and will be worked on over the next couple of weeks that we will be discussing in this forum. But the 10 benefits that I shared with the board and the reasons why we did board assessment was, number 1, to hold the board accountable in the same manner that the board holds all of our employees in the district accountable. And we felt that it was strongly that we should be doing that also. Another benefit was to allow individual members to reflect on their own behavior and the behavioral performance of their colleagues. We're a team of 8. To foster open communication among board members and the superintendent. To provide insight into why and how decisions are made as a board. To improve decision-making by enhancing understanding of our philosophies and goals as a district. To improve the professionalism of your board in its meetings. To resolve differences of opinions and challenges based on false perceptions that might be out there. To allow new board members the opportunity to understand the process of boardsmanship and to get to know their colleagues. and to assist in identifying strengths and opportunities for improvement of the board governance as a whole, and finally, to provide a starting point for effective and productive goal setting, which we found to be very effective. And we also identified right now 5 different board goals that we'll be working on in subcommittee that we'll be presenting as a board, as a whole, to the community. And the biggest thing is self-assessment's a never-ending process. And while this is the first step of a formal self-assessment, we'll be continuing to evaluate us as a governing board and making certain that we stay laser focused on what's best for all of our students. So I do once again want to appreciate and respect the work that our Board of Education, our superintendent, and our COAT team did on Friday. That was our professional development day, similar to the professional development day that our staff will be undergoing and going through tomorrow, May 2nd. So with that, I'll turn that over to recognition.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I would invite Ms. Rothler to the podium.
Good evening. While the Huron Valley School District has great leadership, a wonderful school board, and tremendous educators and staff, we also know it takes parents and volunteers to make our schools exceptional. Tonight, I would like to highlight one of those parent organizations that is currently at several of our schools. It's called Watchdogs. Here's a look at the day in the life of Nick Verducci, one of our watchdogs at Kurtz Elementary School.
Good morning. So usually when we start the day, I'll come in and I'll get my agenda for the day and I'll take a look at it. And then I'll go around to all the doors after all the kids have arrived and gone to the classroom and double check that they are all locked from the outside.
So the Watchdog program at Kurtz is a point of pride, designed to get male role models into our school buildings, not just for the social emotional benefit for our kids, but also they're visible and they're outside, they're walking from classroom to classroom, from door to door, making sure that doors are closed, making sure that kids are safe, and really just providing that male presence at the elementary level.
So when it's lunchtime, currently it's the kindergartners and first graders, the kids sometimes need help opening up their juice boxes or their milks, and then they're not allowed to get out of their seats, so they're trashed. Sometimes they have to help them get it to the trash bins that are at the end of the table. Buddy? What are you guys doing? I'm doing good. You good? Do you need help? You got it?
Hi.
Anybody have any other beautiful work you want to see?
You know what? If you want, I can pass it back out just because it's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Would that be?
This is my daughter, Eliana. She's in 3rd grade. And this is her art class. Eliana is the artist in the family. Definitely not me. Very good, Ellie. I actually have talked to a couple of other dads, and they really enjoy the time as well. They enjoy meeting the other kids that are in the kids' classrooms and just being more part of the community. So actually yesterday my neighbor was here, and then today I'm here.
Well, the kids love it. I mean, even when it's not your own dad, the kids love to see the parents here. They're Chuck E. Cheese walking through the crowd, if you will. The kids are just excited to see them. They're asking the questions. They're talking to them. They see them in the community, high-fiving. It's a nice community piece.
What are you guys doing? Gaga ball? What are you doing in there? I'll help you put it back.
No, we need the worm.
Grab the worm and then we'll play Gaga. Here, come here. Let's look.
Well, behind you, Max.
Oh, there you go. Whoa, get it, Max.
I tried.
Oh.
Oh, it's a great program. I love it. It's a point of pride for our community, and I look forward to rolling it out again in the fall.
All right, Max, you and Dominic.
We did invite the Watchdogs here. I'm not sure if any are part of our Watchdog program, but we wanted to give them recognition. Again, we do currently have that program at Kurtz, Country Oaks, and Lakewood Elementary Schools. Our other elementary schools are interested in starting that program, but certainly could use someone to head it up. And if you have any interest in volunteering for these programs, we encourage you to reach out to your schools because, as you can see, there are benefits to it that certainly reap the benefits, with just that volunteering time. And many of the fathers that we've spoken to love it and love to be a part of it. And as any parent knows, just being in the school, meeting the children your kids know, the kids you play with, knowing the teachers certainly can bring a lot. And as we said, not only from the safety and security aspect, but also that social emotional aspect as well. So do we have any watchdogs here tonight? I wasn't sure if too many could come, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right. Next, we have school presentations, International Academy West. Dr. Slough.
I would invite the proud principal of International Academy West to the microphone this evening, Mr. Parrott.
Good evening. Before I start, I do want to recognize we do have a couple student speakers here for different reasons. Mason and Maya, both of them have physics exams tomorrow for the IB exams. It's our first test, so they have about 2.5 hours of physics exams at 8 in the morning to start everyone off with IB. So, I'm really proud that they're still willing to come this evening. I do want to introduce Ms. Bellotti. Lisa Bellotti is our tri-campus service learning coordinator and creativity, action, and service. So we have service learning incorporated in our 9th and 10th grades and CAS in the 11th and 12th. And so Ms. Bellotti helps with all 3 campuses organize many of our activities. And then also Mason Hambley, who is one of our seniors who was recognized for their achievements in CAS. So Mason, if you want to also come stand next to Ms. Bellotti. You have a presentation.
Hello, and thank you for having us. Service and community are the foundational values of an IB education, not to mention any education. And I am pleased and honored to be a part of planning hours for our 3 IA campuses. In looking at service, our learners strive to be caring members of the community. They want to make a difference and find their place in the community and find out what and how they can give back. All right, technical difficulty here. Oh, did I do it?
I can go.
I'm sorry. So again, it is the foundational element. So whether we are working toward our 2021-22 school service initiative of identifying and doing our part in food security, or in this year's school-wide service initiative in taking part in working with organizations that would help provide a quality education for all. Our students are very actively involved in the community. Whoop. The other arrow. There we go. So as you can see here, as a part of our service initiative last year addressing food insecurity, we had one organization actually work with students at our IA West campus in collecting over 1,000 pounds of food that would have otherwise ended up in landfills. We also harvested over 9,000 pounds of corn this year, which equates to over 9,000 meals. Quite a bit of corn. And again, as Mr. Parrott had introduced Mason, CAS is a part of our diploma program, which not only focuses on service, but also allows our DP students or diploma program students to work through a variety of experiences in creativity as well as activity, again, promoting lifelong learners and providing a balance throughout their lives, because as we know, they may not always be a student in the classroom, but they will always be lifelong learners. So I'd like to invite Mason to share some words about his CAS experience.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Mason Hambley. I'm a senior at IA West. I was graciously awarded the CAS award. I don't know if it was completely deserved, but I'll take it. I had an excellent time reflecting over all of my CAS experiences. I had just an amazing opportunity through the school to go to Peru, and while we were there, we had the opportunity to perform some community service. We helped pave a previously unpaved path, and it helped with transportation. And we also got the opportunity to work at a school, and we were able to construct a play structure while we were there. And I was able to reflect on it through CAS. And beyond that, like, CAS is just a great opportunity to allow for students to sort of branch out and become more well-rounded. Just through like engaging their like creative aspects, or like engaging activity, or just promoting like global and local just engagement with your community. It's just an amazing opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
This year at our Tri-Campus Service Day, we logged over 1,300 hours of service. And again, harvesting over 9,000 pounds of food, working with organizations in Detroit, the Children's Center, also the Downtown Boxing Club, and Forgotten Harvest Farm and Fenton, working for their grounds beautification department as well as boutique support. Our upcoming 2023-2024 service initiative will be working for good health and well-being. So we're very excited to work with our community partners as we tackle that UN Sustainable Development Goal. And again, other community programs, I'm very excited that our Tri-Campus Initiative and working with the Detroit Zoo Environmental Teen Alliance program not only takes work from within the classroom, but also takes it to service locations around the Metro Detroit area. We have many volunteers working with the Rocket Mortgage Classic, the annual golf tournament in Detroit, along with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, Crocheting for a Cause, and again, Forgotten Harvest, just to name a few of our community partners. Thank you so much.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? I just want to say thank you very much. Obviously, based on your community involvement, your community focus, once again, demonstrates how our students have a positive effect not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom. And we're very grateful for all that you do, not only for our community, but for all of Southeast Michigan. So thank you very much. Next, Superintendent's communication.
Thank you, Mr. President. So do our IA students need to head out and get ready for physics, or are you guys okay? Okay. Look at Maya. Maya's in it for the long haul. Thank you. Again, I would just echo Mr. Wiseman's sentiments. We appreciate the International Academy being here and presenting this evening. I just feel really fortunate as a superintendent to have the International Academy within the Huron Valley Schools. We are one of 3 campuses. We have roughly 270 students currently enrolled in the International Academy, and I hope that enrollment just continues to grow because it provides sort of a niche that's not available to students that attend other school districts, and it really is just another thing that sets the Huron Valley Schools apart from many others. So thank you again for being here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start off by saying Happy Principals Day. We have a couple principals in the audience. I see Ms. Greenleaf and Mr. Parrott. I don't think Mr. Parrott even knew it was Principals Day, which so happy Principals Day to all of our principals. We really do have a remarkable team. So our team is called the Administrative Instructional Team. We meet regularly, and I would put up our principals and assistant principals against any in the county and in the state. We are very fortunate to have a thoughtful, passionate, competent group of administrators that just serves selflessly every single day They're there for their staff. They're there for their kids. And I'm grateful for each and every single one of them. So if you have not said thank you to your principal today, send them an email before midnight, or I think they'll forgive you if you say it tomorrow as well. Couple other updates. Just safety and security has been a recurring update that I've shared with our community and with our board. I'm pleased to report that the company that we hired to do a third-party audit of our facilities, same company we had in place last year. So sort of our post-assessment, if you will, review of our buildings. That work has concluded, and I'm hearing very good things about the result. I'm looking forward to the actual written report and looking forward to sharing that with our board members. We'll probably start at each of the committee meetings, and then I will expect that we will do sort of a high-level sharing out for our listening audience, so you're aware. We won't go into the specific details regarding the findings in the report for obvious reasons. And these are safety and security findings, and we wouldn't want to share any of our trade secrets as it relates to safety and security as a school district. So pleased with that. For those of you who live in the community, coming to your mailboxes soon is our biannual publication of Education Matters. You will have an opportunity to read updates regarding our Huron Valley School Strategic Plan. It's a 5-year strategic plan, kind of walks through the high-level updates and points you to the resource that's available online. Also, really proud of all of the construction work that has taken place in the district since 2019. A heavy focus now at both Lakeland and Milford and the IA West in terms of construction work. There's information in here about some of our new principals, welcoming them to the Huron Valley Schools, some points of pride, our top academic students for the class of 2023, our Teachers of the Year recognitions, and much, much more. So please look for this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at our communications email address. Tomorrow, I'm pleased to announce that we are going to have our first, actually, in quite since I've been in the school district, our first annual Realtor Luncheon. I think we have around 10 participants who we know will be in attendance, and we're excited to share all the wonderful things that are happening in the Huron Valley Schools with our realtors so that they can get out there and sell some homes. Because we know that what we offer here as a school district is quite special, and we're excited to share that with our local realtors. So tomorrow is actually a day off for our students, but I can assure those of you that are listening that it is not a day off for the school district. Our staff will be hard at work, engaged in professional learning. And I'd like to ask Mr. Tavernier just to spend a couple of minutes and just touch on some of the key takeaways that we expect for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much. So again, as Dr. Salah shared, tomorrow is no school for students, but our instructional staff will all be engaging in professional learning. Tomorrow morning, we have planned our teams will be celebrating the work they've done this year around collaborative inquiry. And I know the board has heard about our work this year and our focus with collaborative inquiry, which is really a framework for teachers to work together collaboratively and really problem solve larger problems of practice that they're facing on a daily basis. And so working together with their teams, tomorrow morning will be the last session for our collaborative inquiry for this year. So it'll really be an opportunity for them to reflect back and celebrate the work that has been done. Also tomorrow morning, our teams will be then transitioning into school improvement activities. And a lot of that is around many of our parents just recently completed surveys and providing some feedback to our school improvement team. So they'll be evaluating that, looking at data and really charting next year goals for school improvement as they look forward to the next school year. Tomorrow is also our K-Days. So our incoming kindergartners will have an opportunity to come to our schools along with their parents and spend a morning really getting to know the teachers, getting to know the building, have an opportunity to familiarize themselves really with what school is going to be all about, and have an opportunity to just get familiar with the environment and with their teachers. And so we're excited for our incoming junior kindergarten and kindergartners to participate in our K-Day orientation tomorrow. In the afternoon, all of our instructional staff will be coming over to this campus. We'll have all of our, again, junior kindergarten through 12th grade teachers will all be here at Milford and at Heritage and really have an opportunity to work with their cohorts. So this is one of those days where they really get to meet with their teams cross district. So that will be tomorrow afternoon. So we're looking forward to that. And again, tomorrow is really our last full day of professional learning for our staff, for them to be able to really go back, reflect on this year, and plan forward for next.
Thank you, Mr. Tavernier. Those days are incredibly valuable for our staff. It's where we spend the time learning so that we can be the best versions of ourselves for our kids. So last but not least, I wanted to just mention that this is the final week before Teacher Appreciation Week. Please just take a moment, find a teacher that you value greatly for what they've invested into your own children, and just say thank you. I know how much it means to them. I know how hard our teachers work, and they certainly deserve all the recognition that they can possibly get, especially this time of year. This is kind of the time of year when we start looking for the break. So thank you to our teachers in anticipation of that Teacher Appreciation Week that's forthcoming. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Next, student leadership. I believe we have somebody that is prepping for a big exam, so I'm sure she's very anxious to present to us so that she can hit the books.
So I may be slightly biased, but I believe that the biggest news at International Academy West recently is the fact that as seniors, we had our last day of formal instruction this past Thursday. So for my presentation tonight, I talked to just a couple of my fellow senior classmates and wanted to share with you all some of their favorite memories, things they're thankful for, and future plans. I think that as students who have learned and grown at IA West for these past 4 years, we are the best representatives of the student experience in our school environment and indicative of all that our school has done for us. I'm so proud of all my classmates, so I'm very excited to share with you all some of what they had to say and what they have accomplished. So to start off, my friend Hannah Olzak will be majoring in microbiology at North Carolina State University next year as a Park Scholarship recipient, where her tuition, room and board, and other expenses will be covered. And she says that her favorite thing about IA West has been that the environment has truly made her more well-rounded, not only as a student, but as a person as well. Her favorite memory is Olympics, which is arguably our greatest tradition, in which the 4 classes compete against each other in various activities. And Hannah pointed to the close relationships that have been built between teachers and classmates as what she will miss most about our school. My classmate, Alexander Broadwater, will be attending the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan, and he says that his favorite thing about IA West has to be the collaboration between everyone and the fact that there was always somebody ready to help you when you needed it. He stated that he will miss his fellow students the most because they were what made everything so enjoyable, and he believes that IA West has shaped him to be much more open-minded, collaborative, and inquisitive. Another friend and classmate of mine, Alexandra Beck, will be majoring in math and biotechnology at Michigan State University. She will be a member of the Honors College, and she was offered a professorial assistantship where she will work with faculty in scholarly research or innovative teaching and receive a stipend for doing so. Alex says that her favorite memory from her time at IA West is when our higher level math class planted a tree last year to make up for the insane amount of paper we had used working out math problems. And she added that her favorite thing about IA West is the support system that develops between students and teachers over the years, and that IA West has not only given her the tools to thrive academically, but also has influenced her character and work ethic in a way that no other program could have. As for myself, I can never say enough about how much IA West has done for me. I have learned from incredible teachers, developed the best friendships, and grown holistically in the most supportive environment. I am forever thankful for the fact that the education I have received has not only made me stronger academically, but has allowed me to develop so much as a person. One of my favorite feelings is to be able to look back at where I was 1 year ago, 1 month ago, or just 1 week ago, and see how much I have grown. And this is something that I have been able to do virtually every day during my time at IA West. And I don't know that I could be the person that I am now had I spent my past 4 years anywhere else. Every student's needs are different, and no one environment is conducive to all, but I am thankful that IA West exists as a high school option within the Huron Valley District, because I know that for myself, as well as many of my classmates, it is the environment that we needed to be successful. iOS seniors may be done with class, but we are not entirely finished yet. For the next 3 weeks, we will be busy taking IB exams. We test in 6 subjects with up to 3 exams in each. And as Mr. Parrott said, we have our physics exam tomorrow, which unfortunately I have to take, but it's going to be okay. And then after exams, we are looking forward to prom and graduation, but we're really just trying to cherish all the time we still have together. It was very weird to walk out of the building during our clap out on Thursday, knowing that we'll never be back for a normal school day. But it was a good reminder of all the growth that we have done together at IA West, and a good reminder of the fact that IA West will be a part of us forever. And if you'd like, you can keep up with our IA West senior college decisions by following the IA West Facebook page or our decisions Instagram page at IAW 2023 decision. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much for sharing. Oh, Jacob, I'm sorry.
I am continuously impressed by you. I have no doubt that in 4 years, 5 years, you're going to come back here with just an amazing story to tell us, just an update. So I'd love to see that in 4 or 5 or 6 years. You come back, and before I have 5.5 years left. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? A couple things. Number one, thank you very much for sharing comments, your reflections on your career and your classmates. I think it's very important. I was very happy to hear that while you've had the clap out, while you have graduated, school is not over for you. Maybe you can very quickly give us a kind of a 7-Eleven explanation of the exams that you and your classmates are taking and the reasons why you're taking these exams.
Sure. So our IB exams cover basically, all our courses are 2-year courses in the IB program. So our exams cover material that we began at the beginning of junior year. And we test in 6 subjects with up to 3 exams in each subject. So each exam has different level of rigor, different time requirements, and they kind of test different skills, I guess, that we've developed during our time in those classes. We take exams at the standard level, and then you can take 3 or 4 exams at the higher level. And so I would say probably most universities award credit for exams taken at the higher level, not always the standard level. But then the scores that we receive on all of the exams in total go towards our acquiring the IB diploma. So that's kind of what we've been working for these past 2 years, especially in the diploma program at IA West. And yeah, it's just kind of the culmination of the International Baccalaureate curriculum that we've been following. Combined with, that's true. So we also did our internal exams already. So these are our external exams, and our internals are more so like research papers in sciences and math and history. And in our foreign language, it's like an oral examination with your teacher. So those, I guess, kind of test more of your independent critical thinking skills and that sort of thing.
So you've passed all your requirements to graduate. Now you're taking additional exams to get the IB diploma.
Correct.
And also the opportunity to earn college credits at the higher level.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And IB stands for?
International Baccalaureate.
Very good. Thank you. You can go study now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again, Jennifer. All right. The association communication, you're next.
I think we're just also thankful we don't have to take those exams over the next few weeks. Good evening. Each year, the school districts within our local MEA Coordinating Council celebrate our educators and community members who have made a difference in our districts. Each district gets to nominate an outstanding person in education and a friend of education. And tonight, I'm excited to recognize our 2 nominees for this year. The Huron Valley Education Association is incredibly proud to nominate Heidi Utterback as our outstanding person in education in 2023. Heidi has a long history in Huron Valley, first as a student graduating from Lakeland High School, and then in 1991, she was hired as a teacher at Oxbow Elementary, and she's been there ever since. For 32 years, Heidi has been a lower elementary teacher, and hundreds of students, including Noah, have been fortunate to receive their educational foundation in Mrs. Utterback's classroom. When reflecting on all her years at Oxbow, Heidi feels so fortunate to have worked with so many educators. She embraces collaboration, loves when she can bounce ideas off her colleagues, and likes to work together to support her students. Heidi's colleagues have so much to say about her positive influence on them and all of her students through the years. Anne-Marie Brinkman, an Oxbow fourth grade teacher, expresses that Heidi provides positive experiences for students while building the confidence to be enthusiastic and active learners. Connecting with her students, families, and colleagues is just a daily part of Heidi's day. Advocacy is also important to Heidi, and she fondly remembers that she was voluntold to take on a responsibility of participating in HVEA committee when an opening came up many years ago. She is grateful for the opportunities that she's had to participate fully in our association throughout the years. She expressed that through our association, our educators have a voice in the direction of the district, and we can advocate for what we need. She looks for the positive in all situations and brings humor into a conversation at just the right moment. Heidi is first to jump in and volunteer for any task and is fully committed to the staff, students, and families at Oxbow. Justine Greenleaf, Oxbow's principal, states, Heidi is an energetic, loving, and passionate educator. In the classroom, she leads with love, experience, and laughter. Huron Valley is so incredibly fortunate to have Heidi Utterback as an exceptional educator for the past 32 years. Her guidance and leadership has positively impacted our community as she has taught our students, mentored our new teachers, and advocated for the needs of our educators. Moving on to our second award, I promise we'll let them stand at the end. Moving on to our second award, the Huron Valley Education Association, the Huron Valley Support Personnel, and the Huron Valley Para-Educators Association are excited to nominate Denise Forrest as our Friend of Education nominee for this year. As most of you know, Denise's long history in Huron Valley demonstrates her passion and dedication to public education. 35 years ago, Denise began her career in Huron Valley as a paraeducator. In 1997, she began teaching art in our schools and loved helping students find their creative piece. In 2014, Denise added to her leadership responsibilities as she took on the role of HVEA president. And then, after decades in education, she retired 4 years later. Well, those of us who know Denise know she could have sat back and just enjoyed that quiet, retired life, but we weren't surprised that was not the path she took. Denise joined the Huron Valley Board of Education in 2019, and for the past 4 years was an active member of the board. Denise used her experience as a teacher and association president to help educate her fellow board members and to help guide in the decision-making. Denise's years on the board were filled with unprecedented challenges and difficult decisions that needed to be made as Huron Valley navigated its way through the COVID pandemic. Our 3 Huron Valley associations are so grateful for Denise's leadership and dedication to our school district throughout her career, and especially during her time on the board. Having board members who are past educators is reassuring that our voices are in the discussion, even when we are not physically present. Denise was always approachable and willing to listen to our staff to hear our concerns and ideas. Advocating for our students and staff is integral to who she is and who she will continue to be in the years to come. So I'd like to have Heidi and Denise stand at this moment so they can be recognized by our Huron Valley community. We did have a dinner last week. There were over 100 of us celebrating all of our OPI awards and our Friends of Education awards from all of our coordinated council. Dr. Salah was there, and Mr. Wiseman and Mrs. Pastana were there. There were 100 people, and they, along with their colleagues who were also recognized in the other districts, got to be honored. And it was a wonderful evening. And thank all of you for coming to join us.
Thank you very much. And Denise and Heidi, thank you for everything that you've done on behalf of the students and staff of Huron Valley Schools. It's appreciated, it's respected, And I just wanted, on behalf of the Board of Education, to say thank you. Next, Secretary Pastana, do we have any board correspondence?
No board correspondence tonight.
Thank you. Treasurer Cotter, Treasurer's report.
Yes, I have a few items, and I'm going to cover those when I give our finance and operations report. Likewise, tonight on our new business, you're going to find a resolution and our Oakland County ISD budget. So I'm going to ask Mr. Van Gotham to go over that for us right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Cotter. So on an annual basis, one of the responsibilities of our local school district is to receive the Oakland Schools ISD budget and ultimately approve or reject the general fund budget that's provided to us. And so I wanted to provide a brief context into what that budget looks like. So Oakland Schools is obviously the ISD for Huron Valley Schools, as well as the other 27 member districts. And their revenue is primarily generated through property tax revenue. And so the property tax that's paid for by not only homeowners, but businesses and communities, that part of that money goes towards Oakland Schools. And so this year, because of property values, we're fortunate that is going to increase by about 5%. And that covers a lot of different expenditures, not only the Oakland Schools expenses at their own unit, but also a lot of dollars that are pushed on to local districts or benefit the local districts. One of those things is social, emotional well-being and mental health support. So obviously, as a result of the pandemic and moving forward, in this past school year, the ISD took on 2 additional mental health support staff, and they're going to continue that with those same staff members being carried forward into the new year. Those are new expenditures over the last couple of years, again, as a result of some additional social emotional needs that are felt throughout the county. School safety is also one of those things that has popped up not only in Huron Valley, but in Oakland Schools as well. And so for their career and technical centers, we send some students there. They actually have 4 school resource officers that are a part of their staff, and part of their budget covers the cost of those employees. They also have a piece on cybersecurity. They're making hardware as well as software changes in their back end to make sure that they're, keeping their vulnerabilities to a minimum as a result of cybersecurity, which is obviously something that not only they need to worry about, but basically anybody who has a laptop or the internet or a computer-based program in their possession. They also support the My Peer program, which is a countywide, basically financial and human resource application. And so part of their costs cover that. We are actually one of the districts that utilizes that software for our Business Plus work, as well as some of the human resource categories. They're actually starting, and this was interesting, they're starting a countywide communications channel so that constituent districts will have an emergency radio channel that will give us direct access to emergency responders. We will incorporate that into our safety plan once we get some additional information, but that's something, again, that they're paying for with the resources that are provided. On the personnel side, they are offering their staff not only the steps that they receive if they're on steps, but 2.5% and 1% salary increases for non-union and union staff. That's basically in line with, what we're seeing from other districts, and it seems, again, in line with where their budget stands. PA 18 special education funding is important. So we as a district greatly benefit from this. We receive on a gross level a little over $6 million in PA 18. It basically helps us with our special education costs that we incur as a district that are not supported by federal and or state monies. And so I'm happy to report that I would think we would see another benefit this year of an increase of approximately $100,000, and that's in the 3-boxer that I provided to the board under new business. And again, like we mentioned, this is actually part of the Michigan School Code that the ISDs present all of their budgets to the local school districts. In your 3-boxer, you saw that there was actually a career and technical education fund, as well as special revenue or special student support services. The board is ultimately responsible for approving or rejecting the general fund on an annual basis. And obviously, this is under new business this evening, so we're not asking for approval this evening, but at least kicking it off to the board. And obviously, between now and the next 2 weeks when we have our May 15th board meeting, I'm happy to take additional questions and provide some additional support. But being able to take a look at the budget, it stays pretty true to or in line with what we've seen in the past several years. Obviously, with the shift in school safety and mental health being a small tweak, but that's kind of where we're at on the Oakland schools piece. So hopefully that's helpful. Obviously, there will be time here between now and when we're asking for the ultimate approval, but hopefully that gives you some context as to what is being provided by Oakland schools and kind of our responsibility as a school district.
I just want to say thank you to Jeffrey. Well done.
All right. Thank you, Treasurer Cotter. And for board reference, this is going to be under new business. So if there's some questions tonight, we'll utilize that time to ask any questions. And then similar to what we do with all of our processes, it goes new business before it goes on finished business. So we're not asking for approval tonight. You'll have a 2-week period to ask any further questions. I know Jeffrey's presented that to us to Finance and Operations also. So thank you very much for the Treasury's report. Next, reports from Board Committee, Executive Committee. The Executive Committee has not met since the last Board of Education meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 10th, which is a week from Wednesday. TLT Committee. Ms. Pastana?
Yes, TLT met April 18th at the Administration Building. Meeting called to order at 3:33. Present were myself, Ms. Cotter, Mr. Dimick, Mr. Tavernier, Dr. Salav, Mr. Limburg, Dr. Nemeth, Mr. Wisnick, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Bjorkman, Ms. Miska, Ms. Cadell, and then Alexis from Milford High School, Maya from the IA West, and Everett from Lakeland as our student leadership. There was no public comment. The first regular agenda item was the social studies update. Mrs. Miska provided an update on the social studies curriculum that has been ongoing over the past several months. New state standards were released in 2019, and teams have been reviewing the alignment of courses and resources available. Currently, the district has been using the TCI textbooks and online resources, adapting them in a rolling implementation from 2008 to 2013, and renewing online licenses as they expire. With the realignment and update of the curriculum for Social Studies 8 and high school U.S. history and geography, economics, and senior government, the district is planning the replacement of textbooks and expiring online licenses with the latest TCI copyrights. It was unanimously supported by the committee for this exhibit to appear as new business at tonight's meeting. Section 98C budget update. Ms. Bjorkman shared an update on the Section 98C budget. These are post-pandemic funds that were allotted to be used to meet the needs of students with academic gaps and learning loss due to COVID. The window in which these funds are to be spent has been moved to September 2023, which allows Huron Valley to allocate these funds to help pay for summer extension. We also discussed the Fine Arts Coordinator. Mr. Tavernier discussed the resolution that was passed at the December 5th board meeting. Roles and responsibilities of the coordinator were discussed, and the position will be posted for the upcoming 23-24 school year. There's still some discussion on that as well. Not the posting, but what else the responsibilities will be. For student leadership, Alexis had some discussion regarding the SAT essay questions and what was required by Michigan state law. Maya shared all the fun ways that teachers are being honored during Staff Appreciation Week at IA West. And Everett invited the committee to attend the mock car crash at Lakeland on the 23rd of May. New student leadership, that they'll be bringing the juniors that will be seniors next year to the May 16th meeting. Safety and security, Mr. Tavernier gave an update on the completion of the installation core switch at Milford High School and the continued installation of technology within classrooms. There was no consent agenda. We adjourned at 4:55, and our next meeting is actually tomorrow at 3:30.
Thank you very much, Chair Pastana. Finance and Operations, Treasurer Cotter.
Yes. We met on Monday, the 24th. Present were Mr. Wiseman, Ms. Cotter, Mrs. Grzymkowski, and Dr. Salah. From our business office, Mr. Van Gotham, Mrs. Kerrigan, and Mrs. Maruskin. And from operations, John Reby was also there. The new business that we covered, we talked briefly about the BP9, Bid Pack 9, the asbestos abatement that was taking place at Milford High and Lakeland. We also talked about Oxbow traffic upgrade that's going to be done at Oxbow regarding a parent pickup site. They're going to have in the back an area where the cars can stack and wait to pick up their children, creating no more traffic on the road. So that should work out well. Likewise, Dr. Slog gave us a brief safety and security update. We talked about sharing our private security from Lakewood, and we've asked that he'd be available to go over and share some time on the same campus there at White Lake. We did talk about our own general fund budget, compared our actual to what we budgeted for. There were no concerns with that. And moving forward in the future, we're going to check about getting some Oxbow speeding lights. They're going to be discussed with with finance and operations. Likewise, tonight you had an opportunity. You'll see the ISD budget and the resolution that we have under new business. And moving forward, Moving forward, we will then have an opportunity at our May 10th meeting to look at third and fourth quarter adjustments of our own budgets. With a reminder to the board, we will be setting a new budget in June. Thank you.
Treasurer Cotter. Vice President Dodd, Communications, Marketing, and Legislation.
Yes, hot off the presses, we met tonight at 5:02 p.m. Present were myself, Amy Grzymkowski, Michelle Ryan, Barb Rothler, Paul Salah, and Kim Willis. We had no public comment. On our agenda, we talked about a few things. I'm going to try to go through them real quick. They created a beautiful Points of Pride one-page document, just to really give a good glance at what we do really well. They're making some edits, and we'll roll it out here within the next few weeks for the community. We talked about community volunteering and figuring out a way to do a one-stop shop where people in the community, parents, retirees, anybody who wants to get involved can figure out how to get involved in both nonprofit organizations and other organizations affiliated with our schools that are helping students. We also talked about enrollment information, specifically related to junior kindergarten and the kindergarten programs. Communications team has been working hard to drop off flyers to the local community. Committee asked what we can do to get the word out, possible PTA involvement next year. We also talked about specifically focusing on the manufactured home communities and their involvement with the JK and kindergarten programs. And we're going to look at those numbers to figure out if we could do a little bit more to get folks involved specifically with the junior kindergarten and kindergarten programs. We discussed paid media campaigns to work on boosting enrollment, but decided perhaps to forego that because we've been doing such a great job on earned media this year with the stories and things that we're getting in the media without having to pay. We talked about word of mouth being a really great way to boost the notoriety of our district and people's interest in being here. We talked about having a Why HVS Day and creating an Instagram frame for people to use on their own personal social media to talk about why they're proud to be at HVS. We received an update about the recon management evaluation is complete. They've been through the buildings and we'll be seeing a report soon. The Safety and Security Committee that's required by law will meet on Tuesday, May 9th for their very first meeting. And we'll make sure that that's very clear and that talking points are focused in the meeting on higher level stuff. Again, to make sure that we keep our safety and security as safe and secure for our buildings as possible. We talked a little bit about how do we communicate about assessments and M-STEP and all that sort of stuff. More info to come about that later. And we adjourned at 5:50 p.m. Our next meeting is June 5th at 3:30 p.m. back at the administration building.
Thank you very much, Vice President Dodd. Next on the agenda is public comments. I had mentioned earlier in the meeting at the beginning that we have citizens participation forms for anyone that has any comments to make. Mrs. Hill, do we have any citizen participation forms? Thank you very much. If you do have one later on in the meeting, we do have a section for public comments towards the end of the meeting. Consent agenda, approval of minutes, Exhibit A1. Do I have a motion?
Sure. I'll move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items A1 through A1 as presented.
Second?
I'll support that.
Support by Member Cotter. We have a motion and a second. Could I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter?
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Dimick?
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
I am a yes, and Mr. Wiseman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, unfinished business. We have two unfinished business items, Exhibits B and C. These were both presented at our last board meeting under new business, had an opportunity to have discussion, along with over the last 2 weeks, any questions that might be specific to these items. The first one is chemistry resources. Do I have a recommendation? Yes.
I will move that we approve the new chemistry resource. I forget what the name of it is. I'm sorry.
Experience chemistry.
Experience?
Chemistry.
Chemistry. Experience chemistry, which is the name of the chemistry resource.
I'll support that.
All right. We have a motion made by Member Pastana, seconded by Member Cotter. Open for discussion, questions? Any questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Grzymkowski.
I just want to thank Mr. Lindberg for making all of these resources available to us to review them. I don't think any of us, I could be wrong, but I don't think any of us are subject matter experts in chemistry. I bake and not well, and that's about the extent of my chemistry. I appreciate the fact that we could look through these materials, that we were able to take really what it is that we teach and compare that with the book. I appreciate the fact that our educators have taken those resources into the classroom and said, will this work for us? And will it work for my chemistry colleagues? The books they're an interesting book because when I think of chemistry, when I look back, my books didn't look like that. These are very engaging books. They utilize a lot of real world experience. They do skew heavily towards some things that really aren't standards in Michigan, but they do have a lot of really amazing pieces that are standards in Michigan. And so, do I love everything in them? No, but I'm not sure that I'm going to find a curriculum that I'm going to love everything in them. But I do want to say thank you for giving us that opportunity to review them. I've asked a lot of questions of Dr. Salah, and we've asked questions here at the board table. I appreciate the fact that we don't just say, yep, this is good enough. We really do have a way of vetting our curriculum, and I appreciate all the hard work that has gone into it. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Member Dimick.
Yes, I'd like to echo a lot of what Amy said in terms of the text being available to me and our staff being available to answer questions. It was very helpful. Along with Amy, I too had a little bit of there was some information in the book that maybe I felt could be presented in a more of a manner that didn't, a less political manner, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There were some things that just felt a little bit off topic for chemistry for me. And so that's why I won't be able to support purchasing this text, but I do believe that it's a good text. And like Amy said, we may not find one better. However, my problem is more along the lines with publishers putting out content that is political. I just want it to be the chemistry. I mean, and yeah, we have a lot of these things going on, whether it's, oh, goodness me. Of course, on the spot, I've drawn a blank here. Well, there's a ton, for instance, on the drought in California, which we know is going on. Does that need to be as heavily, maybe not for Michigan? So I know that probably won't be covered. And along those same lines, I know our educators will treat information as if it is, they're going to teach our children as they have been in the past, like you do with creation and evolution. These are both theories. These are what they are, and kind of go through it that manner. And so I have complete trust in our educators. So my voting no is not any sign against like not trusting them. It's more along the lines with our publishing companies, just kind of sending a message up that way, hopefully. So I doubt it'll be heard, but thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Member Dodd?
So just for, to help bring us all along, because it's not just us, it's others. So publishing curriculum for chemistry is, to make sure I'm clear, and I'm looking at you, John, so if you could say yes. The curriculum for chemistry isn't created by our district. It's created by a committee and then approved by the state of Michigan.
That is correct. The state standards are set by a committee and approved by the Department of Education. So that sets the state standards. And then we have local committees that will review those standards and develop a local curriculum that we use here in the district. And that is often our teacher leaders are working with teachers across the district and often working with resources from the county. As we develop that local curriculum. And then what we're looking to approve tonight is really the resource that supports the instruction of that curriculum.
Great. And we don't have books written specifically for the state of Michigan curriculum.
No, and to Mr. Dimick's point, many of the resources that are available on the scale are really meeting an audience across the nation. Mm-hmm. And so we're evaluating a number of different resources that are available. Sometimes we do see in areas where we may see a resource that is specific to Michigan. For example, Michigan history. It might be something that we see that's more locally developed, but in this case, we're looking at a resource that is available to a broader audience.
And I think we talked about when the folks presented this at our last meeting, that the book is one of a number of things that they use to support this curriculum. So even though they're not going all the way through it because it's written for everybody, there's also other components. So would you say that the book is the primary source, or is that coming from other areas? Because I think it's very different than when I was in school.
Yeah, and I'm looking to our teacher leaders that have been a part of this and know well. And yeah, certainly it's an anchor resource for the course itself. Teachers will always bring in other resources and add other things to throughout the year, but this is certainly the anchor resource.
And just generally, when we're looking at stuff like this, how many books do we have to choose from that fit within that Michigan curriculum? Do they give us a list, or is it 1, 2? Is it 5?
Connie, you want to come on up? I think Connie Gilbert's our teacher leader, and she worked with our curriculum committee, and she'll be able to answer in a little more detail.
That really depends on the subject area and the course. For example, in math, a lot. In chemistry, because the standards were so new, a lot of publishers took a while to actually update their materials or write resources that were meant to meet these new standards. But we generally start at least looking in our office at 10 to 15 resources. At chemistry, it was a little bit less than that. A lot of chemistry resources might have been open source, so free resources that are supported maybe from universities. And some of those resources require a lot of commitment with professional learning, attending things outside of the school day or school year. So that really limits sometimes our choices as well of what we can take as a capacity. So I would say maybe we started at least in our department, maybe with 6 or 7, and brought kind of to the team 3 to 4, and then you keep narrowing down as we go.
Thanks. I just think sometimes it's helpful to hear what that process is. I think when we think about things like math, there are so many resources. But for this, it's really, we have to pick from a relatively small number. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, Ms. Cotter.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because I've been involved in curriculum work in the past a long time ago, but I know Huron Valley has always been very diligent about checking out in what we call a resource. It's not the whole curriculum, but I want to compliment our staff, because when I had an opportunity to go through some of our materials, I was looking for the alignment with the state standards, and bang for the buck, I think you certainly picked a good resource. I appreciate that, because there's nothing worse than to buy a bunch of textbooks and have them sitting on the shelf. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Ms. Ryan.
I also want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to take the books home, and then also for giving me the curriculum that is currently being taught, so I could kind of compare and look. And I want to say the book had a lot of good data and facts. There were some areas that were very opinion-based, but they aren't currently falling into the curriculum. So, I know and I trust that when those areas come in, it's going to be taught in a straight line. I'm not a straight line, but you know what I mean? Not a biased view. It's going to be taught appropriately. So just thank you for all the information that you gave me to evaluate that. And it made my head spin. I was not good at chemistry. So it brought back some really scary memories.
Any other comments? Ms. Dodd, you said chemistry has changed a lot since you were in high school. Well, you can imagine how chemistry has changed since I was in high school. But at the same time, I will tell you that how much it's changed since my kids were in high school. And I think that the title of the chemistry book, Experiencing Chemistry, is extraordinarily important, because we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We've talked about processes and things like that. But we focus on the relevancy and the rigor, and experiencing chemistry really brings that third R in, and that's the opportunity to build relationships, because truly that book allows the students to partake in a lot of discussion, because there are a lot of things as it relates to chemistry that has changed over the years, because there's new knowledge that's been brought forth. And we are a global community, and we need to make certain that we understand not only how things affect us locally, but also throughout our country and throughout the world. At the same time, I think it does provide an opportunity that everything's not factual, and it really provides an opportunity to have those discussions. And it really provides that opportunity for our kids to build those relationships, to talk, to really, I think it's been brought up by a number of our board members, that we're not in the business of what to think, but how to think. And I think this chemistry experience book really allows that to come forth. And I'm excited for our students to have that, and I'm excited for our staff to have that book as a resource, because it really does allow us to do those types of things that all of us are, 1, concerned about, 2, advocates of, and 3, very passionate about as it relates to our students and what goes on in our classroom. So I do want to thank you And I do have some personal biases as it relates to chemistry because I wasn't very good at chemistry either. So, but thank you everybody for your comments. And with that, we do have a motion. We do have a second. So if there are no more discussions, we could have a roll call, please.
All right. I am a yes. Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
No.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next on the agenda is Chromebook purchases. This information also was provided from a new business standpoint at our last board meeting. Had the last couple of weeks to have further discussion and get further information. So with that, could I have a recommendation as it relates to the Chromebook purchase?
Sure. I'll move that the Board of Education approve the Chromebook purchase as presented.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Moved by Member Dodd, seconded by Member Ryan. Any questions or comments? I see none. Could we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Dimick.
Yes.
And Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next on the agenda is new business. We have 4 items of new business. Exhibit D is the first one, social studies resources. I turn that over to Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would invite Mr. Lindberg and Ms. Miska to the podium.
Thanks for having us tonight. I just want to start by again introducing myself. Martin Lindberg. I'm the Director of Curriculum Development. And with me tonight, I have teacher leader Kathleen Miska. And Kathleen is not only just a teacher leader, she's also a teacher at Lakeland High School. She starts her day at Lakeland High School and then heads over to the board office. And so she gets the best of both worlds. And we're also fortunate to have a social studies teacher from our district joining us tonight, Mrs. Cherie Lozon. Mrs. Lozon has had different experiences in Huron Valley schools. She started at Lakeland High School and then ended up at Muir Middle School. So she's had the high school and middle school experience. And as one of her former principals, I can attest to how dynamic she is in the classroom. So thank you, Cherie, for coming tonight. There are several other teachers who wanted to be here tonight, but were unable to due to family obligations. All right. So a little bit in when we talk about the resource tonight, kind of what Laura had mentioned a minute ago about what the resource is in the classroom. And we talk a lot in teaching, learning, and technology about grounding resources, having that common experience for our students. And so, again, whether it's the chemistry, experience chemistry book or the TCI, that is something that we want to make sure that all our students in Huron Valley have that grounding resource. Obviously, teachers like Ms. Lozon and stuff take it further than that, but for us to have that resource that is common for all students in our district. There it is. So if you look at the timeline, what you'll see is that the state of Michigan has had several rewrites over the last 15 or so years. Starting in 2007, they had adoption of Michigan Social Studies standards. And then after that, our district worked for several years adopting these standards. And during that time, incorporated the TCI resource as what we would utilize for our social studies. In 2019, the state of Michigan revised their state standards. And from that, again, we've started that process again of going through and aligning our work. And that's what Kathleen will share a lot of. Her and Cherie were part of the group that did a lot of that work for the standards. So.
As our committees looked at these revised standards and the documentation provided for the state that explained their process, one of the things that we wanted to highlight for you tonight is how the standards build from simple to complex, from an understanding of community at the first grade level, and of course the self at the kindergarten level, all the way through the complexities of civic government in Huron Valley, our senior level course. And that this progression builds and complicates. So by the time we're getting to the courses that we're working on this year, our 8th grade courses in U.S. history, our 10th grade U.S. history course, our economics course, and our senior government course, that we are right in the meat of it with those levels of complexity and helping students understand the various impacting factors of government. Similarly, the state standards incorporate the C3 framework, where we're using our standards to help students engage in thinking that will prepare them for college, career, and civic life. And as we revised our standards, our curriculum, this was of primary interest to us. And how do we get students to engage in communicative activity together to better understand complicated ideas, to use argument and reasoning to understand, to take facts of our lives and our civic space and our economic structures to then solve problems that exist in our communities. And so it was very important to us to develop our curriculum and to find and to maintain our resource, the TCI, that in order to meet these objectives. Similarly, the main components of the shift in the state's framework primarily focus on inquiry as a mode of instruction. So presenting students with data, with historical documents, with evidence of past events, and teaching them the reasoning skills that allow them to draw conclusions that are based in their logic and their reasoning, and that we are helping students through this with the disciplinary literacy practices, thinking, reading, writing, and speaking like historians, economists, geographers, and civic leaders so that they can become our next generation of leaders.
So what you see up here is our 6th through 12th grade course sequence, and again, based off of the Michigan Merit Curriculum. But what the highlighted sections are what you see are what we're coming to today, where we worked on throughout this year with the realignment, and then also that the TCI resource would impact. And so you see our 8th grade social studies and 10th grade U.S. history, 11th grade economics, and then 12th grade senior government. So we started this process last year, and Kathleen led this work with our social studies teachers. And we worked on our 6th grade social studies, 7th grade social studies as well, and then our 9th grade world history. And then we continue that work this year with the highlighted ones that I had just mentioned with the 8th grade social studies, U.S. history, economics, and then we're going to continue working on senior government actually this month. Okay, and I'm going to have Kathleen again talk a little bit more because she's involved in that and can give a lot more detail with that.
More detail than maybe anyone really wants, except for us. As we worked through the revised standards and thought about our own instruction in our classrooms and with our TCI resource, some central shifts and themes kind of arose for us to kind of focus and highlight our work. As we looked at these shifts, for example, one of the areas we needed to pay attention to as we realigned our 8th grade and our 10th grade courses was the line of demarcation between them. And Cherie knows this well too, that in the standards, there is some overlap between the 8th grade standards and our U.S. history standards to bridge students between these two courses that are of course separated by our 9th grade world history course. So we need a little in 8th grade to kind of prime the pump. And then in 10th grade, we need to revisit some thematic elements from the 8th grade course and then dive more deeply into some of these pieces. So there's about a 25-year timeline overlap in the courses, in the meat of the courses, and trying to figure out between these two curriculum groups whose territory was whose. Sometimes, I mean, we have a lot of passions in this room, right? And a lot of interest in critical period in American history from 1875 to 1900. And so trying to negotiate and figure out where that line was. Also working within the language of the standards on greater inclusivity, that we're not just looking at certain groups of people, whether they are majority or marginalized groups, at only certain points in a timeline, but thinking about how all people are impacted throughout history, and looking at these themes as we kind of move throughout time. Also, some of the language of the standards change to highlight humanity of groups that maybe haven't always been treated as such. So referring to indigenous peoples instead of American Indians, referring to enslaved people instead of slaves. And these were, again, important shifts in the way that we talk about hard history and important ways that we would look for these issues to be talked about in our resource. As we moved into the U.S. History 10 course, some challenges for us and shifts in our realignment were in part that, again, thematic overlap with the 8th grade course, but also thematic overlap within the course itself, that we are moving from a more rigorously chronological approach to thinking a little bit more thematically. So, for example, thinking about patterns of migration within our country, bridging from the late 19th century into the 20th century, that maybe don't necessarily follow a very strict timeline, i.e. we might talk about the Great Migration, which is closer to the middle of the 20th century, even earlier as we address themes of migration in the industrial period as well. So kind of bringing all of those pieces together to help students see those through lines as we do move through the timeline together and understand how all of these pieces impact one another. In our economics course, some challenges, and as someone who's not an economist, the content knowledge of our econ teachers is outstanding. The standards give us some broad language to think about themes and concepts within economic study. And nested under that is this Everest of particular detail. And so trying to figure out where everything kind of fits into the puzzle was a challenge to see how those all loop under our alignment to our new revised edition of TCI. And for senior government, our challenge this May as we work on this is the reorganization of the standards themselves. They've renumbered and resequenced them in order to better reflect kind of thematic groupings, but that means we have a whole nother kind of knot to unravel as we work through this to figure out where we're addressing everything within our course. So as we look at our update for our TCI resource, you can see with our dates up here that, as Marty had said earlier, we adopted these resources between 2008 and 2013, depending on the course, and we are updating to the newest available editions of these resources as we move through this process. In this, we're including updated textbooks for each student, a one-to-one textbook, so that students can take home these texts and use them as needed in order to dive more deeply into the content for both for Social Studies 8, U.S. History 10, Econ, and Senior Government. In social studies too, we also have our reading standards for reading in history and the social sciences, and giving students appropriately challenging text to use not only in our textbooks, but in primary sources, and all of those pieces is definitely part of that. So we wanted to have these things in our students' hands or available for our students' hands. This also is a renewal of our 6-year online licenses for students and online access to the teacher platform that includes all of the teacher materials. But we are also receiving printed placards that teachers can use for display and document camera use in their classrooms. We wanted to give you a little taste of what some of these resources are like tonight. Of course, we have physical copies that you're welcome to. What I'm showing you right here are some of the teacher support materials in this very tiny, tiny blurry space within TCI Online. So for each lesson, this is kind of the home page for the lesson that a teacher would see. You might be able to see, if your glasses are focusing better than mine, that this gives teachers an overview of the lesson, digital materials that can also be printed for student and teacher use, some teacher prep suggestions and kind of sequencing for how the lesson could unfold in their classroom, suggestions for differentiating instruction. So you can see here that sometimes when you need to speed things up or slow them down, they give you some ways to do that. There's also some suggestions for supporting English learners, students who maybe need some enrichment if we kept scrolling, and all of those pieces as we go. And the final tab there is for enhancing learning, which also reaches toward that extension piece for students who would benefit from that. This is an example of one of the teacher resources that's available in TCI Online. Each lesson includes a slideshow that teachers can use and also modify to help work students through some of the instructional materials. This is an example from our econ resource, which covers market structures, and it is a great example of how TCI supports inquiry-focused learning in alignment with our standards. Students are given case studies. They pour through these case studies to determine what market structures they best represent. They use some reasoning skills in order to kind of craft an argument about why this example, this particular case study exemplifies a particular market structure, and it gets them involved in looking at real life examples. And these resources are littered throughout our TCI resources, but this was one that I think brings econ to life in very meaningful ways. They're choosing examples that maybe also touch home a little bit for us. There's one on the cereal industry out on the western part of the state, and are engaging for students. The last screenshot I wanted to show you today is an example of the student interactive piece within our U.S. history course. So each lesson, regardless of course, includes some student interactive pieces in the online component if a teacher chooses to have their students engaging digitally. They have kind of PDF or printable representations of these activities as well, so they can be done in the classroom, maybe in different collaborative methods with classmates. And so for each lesson, you'll see some kind of condensing activity where students have an opportunity to kind of take the textbook piece and draw down some kind of fact checking or understanding checking based on that content. And it often involves primary source images or events. You can see Reagan and Gorbachev signing the nuclear arms treaty there, for example, but then also again to practice argumentation and reasoning skills. That image, for example, is part of a larger activity where students look at Reagan's international diplomacy legacy, and they draw conclusions themselves based on the very balanced data that's provided to them. So it can engage students digitally, it can engage them face-to-face. It gives teachers lots of opportunities to help students think through this challenging content area.
So before we move forward with next steps, I just want to give Ms. Lozon an opportunity to share her thoughts on everything.
Sure. Thank you. I just wanted to say, as someone who has taught in Arizona and Michigan for the past 18 years, I've seen a number of different textbook publishers related to social studies. And in my opinion, TCI is the best. And the reason I say that is that the lessons are dynamic and engaging. And so for me, I have an advanced degree in curriculum and instruction, and I love in the middle of the night looking at different things because that's my passion, that's my skill set. Not every teacher has that priority as a skill set. And so if you have a teacher who comes in perhaps with less confidence in that area, even worst case scenario textbook worksheet, they are dynamic. The lessons are engaging, and really you're talking about Socratic seminars, you're talking about plays, you're talking about simulations. So I have found them to be very, very popular with my colleagues and also other social studies teachers throughout the nation that I have discussions with too.
Okay, so for next steps, pending board approval this month, we will continue on with our realignment for U.S. History and Senior Government, finishing those up this year. We will continue our assessment work in the summer and then into the 23-24 school year. And then also at some point coming back and now looking at our elementary grades and looking at the realignment for social studies at that level. All right, so at this point, we'll turn it over for questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Martin. Questions? Yes, Denise?
Either Marty or Kathleen, how many different teachers were you working with that you guys came up with TCI, or how much input did you get?
So it varies a little bit from course to course. For our middle school courses, we take one teacher of the course per building. So 8th grade is one of the courses that most teachers in our middle school social studies departments teach. But generally, that means that we're getting at least a third of our total social studies 8 teachers into the mix, as representatives for their building. At the high school level, we have typically we like to take 2 teachers per comprehensive high school for each course. So we had 4 world history teachers last year. We had 3 U.S. history teachers, 2 from Milford and 1 from Lakeland, just because of people's availability. For our econ course, because it's a little bit more niche, and we only have actually right now 1 teacher for econ at Milford and 2 at Lakeland. We just took 1 from each building for that, and the same will be true for government. So in some cases, we have nearly 100% of our teachers of a course participating, and in other cases, maybe closer to a third.
So for senior government, you've got the teacher 1 from each building.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Amy, do you have a question?
No, I do remember them. So I guess my one question is, one of the things that we heard about in the chemistry curriculum is that it could be scaled for the student. And either Kathleen or Cherie, either of you could maybe answer this question for me. When you have students that maybe are struggling with reading or writing or both, how do we scale this so that they are getting that same kind of lesson in terms of the dynamic and the exciting and engagement? Is there an opportunity for that?
One of the features of TCI Online for students is that you can level the text. So our printed textbooks are the printed textbooks, but within the online environment, a student can select for themselves a level B or a easier reading level text. It strips out some of the adjectives, some of the sentence complexity gets simplified, and so that makes the reading itself a little bit more accessible to those students. I would say, and maybe Cherie can speak to this somewhat too, that the activities themselves aren't necessarily text heavy by default. Obviously, if you're reading the Declaration of Independence, for example, you are up to your eyeballs in a whole lot of complex sentence structures and vocabulary. But the activities are, I think, accessible to students, and each of the teacher resource components give some suggestions for how to support students who may struggle in different areas. So that might be a simplification of the activity for a group that might need it. It might be a way of kind of front loading some material for English language learners who may not have the vocabulary to access the content the same way that a native speaker might. But again, some ways to kind of scaffold through the process.
That's good. And then one other question. With respect to, we've used this curriculum for years now. In comparison to previous years, do we feel like our students are there? And I hate always using grades, but that's kind of our measure. Do we feel like our grades and our SAT, ACT, because we've been using it for a while, do we feel like that is a good reflection of this curriculum and that we are seeing good improvement? I know that not everyone is going to be an A student. That's just life. But are we seeing improvement with our students as we go across? And since we adopted this particular, I'm looking at it going, history alive, social studies alive. But are we seeing good improvement overall? Are we seeing a good trajectory?
I would say yes. One of the interesting parts of curriculum work is when we have kind of worked through our realignments and developed our kind of renewed or realigned curriculum to the resource and to the kind of abundant additional resources. And I know that was Shireen's favorite part of, of our work together. We also pour through the district assessments that we have built in alignment with our curriculum that are in our control. Because social studies is one of those areas that is assessed, of course, in some of our state and standardized assessments, but often more through reading of passages rather than always discrete knowledge, maybe with the exception of M-STEP. So when we look at our district assessments and we were looking back through, we have, in most cases, about 7 or 8 years of data for our assessments as we've kind of worked through them. We were able to see that overall our students know the content we want them to know. And we were able to identify kind of common themes of challenge spaces for students, questions or standards, questions aligned to standards that they did struggle with more. And we were able to, as we went back into our curriculum, and 8th grade is still working through this in our upcoming work, we were able to go to say, okay, so this is an area that we need to hit a little bit harder in our instruction. This is an area that we need to take more time on to help students better understand the complexities of this particular content. And so I would say that TCI is doing that, but I would also say that it gives us tools to do that and extend where necessary as well.
Any other questions, comments? A couple things. On, what was it, slide 7, core curriculum realignment timeline, 21-22. We as a Board of Education adopted and approved that realignment back in 21-22, correct? Is that correct?
Yes,
okay,
that's
I just
correct.
want to make sure. And then, so we're following somewhat the same process as we followed back in 21-22 as we were going through this. And TCI is the resource that we've been using for a number of years. And you've found it to be very, very positive, something that our teachers continue to embrace, and our students are really engaged with this. The other question in 2020, 22, 23, and I, forgive me if I didn't pick this up, under senior government, you have in brackets May. What's that mean?
So in our efforts to balance curriculum work throughout the school year so that teachers aren't necessarily being pulled constantly, trying to spread out those dates. In talking with the teachers who had expressed interest in working on senior gov, one request that they had that we were able to fulfill is that we wait until after the AP exams because they are also involved in those and that work with their students, and that would help them be better participants in the committee work to have kind of the weight of the big drive to the AP exam for their courses off of their shoulders. So we were able to schedule our work to take place in May, this month, after their exams were completed.
So the other areas, the social studies and U.S. history, the other 3 that are listed there, that's gone through the process. This will go through the process, but the advantage there is obviously they're very familiar with TCI curriculum, probably have had an opportunity to even review those things. You've just not been able to formalize that process. Would that be correct?
Correct.
Okay. What we will do is follow the same process as we did with the chemistry. The curriculum will be available over the next couple of weeks. If you'd like to make a Board of Education, you would like to make an arrangement to take the curriculum home to review it, or set up a time to review it at the administration building. We can work with Dr. Salah, Mr. Tavernier, or Mr. Lindbergh, correct? Okay. So take advantage of that. I know that we did the last time with chemistry. I found it to be very helpful to sit down with this. I'm excited to do the same thing with this. I appreciate and respect the work that you've done. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I appreciate your expertise and your love for curriculum and your passion for curriculum. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Bid Pack 9, the asbestos abatement at Milford High School and Lakeland High School, Exhibit E.
Thank you, President Wiseman. So with any other projects we've been doing over the last several years, one of the things that we're taking a look at and making sure we're compliant with is removal of any asbestos in the spaces we have. So in this particular instance, we're looking at flooring, caulk, designated doors, and partially insulated mechanical fittings, and the removal of that asbestos if there's any in there. And so because we haven't done work for the past 20 years or so as extensive as we have, we don't feel that there's a ton of asbestos there, but it's always good to do the work that we need to do to make sure that we're compliant with that. So we did bid this publicly. Our low bidder came in at around $142,000. So before you this evening, again, this is on new business. We're asking that the Global Green Service Group be awarded the asbestos bid for the high school work over the next couple of years for a total contract award amount of $159,270. That includes a 12% contingency of $17,000. This Global Green Service Group will be a part of our co-op. They've agreed to the terms of our 2% fee as a part of being in that co-op, and we think that'll be a nice feather in our co-op for other districts to maybe consider when they're doing their own asbestos work. So we'll be seeking approval for this at the May 15th, 2023 board meeting.
Any questions? Jeffrey will be available over the next 2 weeks if you have any further questions. I just want to assure the public, we have an asbestos plan in place. We know where the asbestos is. The asbestos that we're removing is required because we're disturbing those areas, replacing tile and such. And this is the time to do that as we're doing this remodeling and reconstruction of the district, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And any asbestos that we might have in the building is reviewed and made certain that it's contained and the buildings are safe in those areas that we are not disturbing.
Yes, we have an annual plan that specifically addresses asbestos, semi-annual review, as well as a monitoring of any areas we think may have asbestos. But yes, we are in compliance, and this is merely as a result of basically the, earth moving, if you will, of all the buildings that we're doing, and basically, disturbing the asbestos because it's a very sensitive material.
And the company that bid these or put together or authored the specifications is Nova Environmental, and that's their business. And they put the specs together, and they'll be the ones that will be responsible for making certain that they adhere to the standards, do the various air sampling afterwards to make certain that not only is the asbestos-containing materials removed, but the air quality is acceptable.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next 2 weeks, we'll be bringing this back as a recommendation for approval. Next is the Oxbow traffic paving upgrades. Dr. Slot?
Go ahead, Mr. Van Gulten.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. So we've talked about this on several different occasions, but one of the challenges that we face with several of our buildings, and most notably here at Oxbow, is the stacking of cars during drop-off and pickup times. And so one of the things that we took a look at in conjunction with the partnership with White Lake Township is, how are we able to better move traffic in and out of our Oxbow site in particular. They're actually building 2 new roundabouts that are near the school, and there's concern of additional stacking above and beyond what we already see on a daily basis. And so in working with the township as well as our civil engineer, we actually came up with a solution that would allow us to do some additional stacking of vehicles on our actual site. In conjunction with some of the options we were presented, this is actually a very low-cost alternative for us to come to a solution that should work for us as well as the township. There was concern of obviously stacking on a road that emergency vehicles really need access to on a daily basis. We're going to present some traffic safety lights in upcoming meetings here, but this particular piece is some on-campus paving work, and so we're asking the T&M Asphalt, which is one of our co-op partners, do some of this work for a total of about $57,000. And this is actually going to provide us with the ability to hold an additional 40 to 45 cars on campus, which should alleviate the challenges that we're seeing and may see as a result of these roundabouts that will be complete right around when school starts in the fall of 2023. And so again, we're not asking for approval this evening, but merely introducing the project and seeking approval in a couple weeks here.
Any questions, comments? Yes, Ms. Dodd.
Am I correct that we're incurring all of the expense for this and it's not, White Lake Township isn't participating in the expenses that we're incurring for this?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Couple comments. Dr. Salah and Member Ryan and myself had an opportunity to visit Oxbow. And I think this is something that, even though we're doing traffic circles and the roundabouts, is something that's absolutely would be necessary anyhow, because it alleviates or eliminates that stacking that people see on Oxbow. So while we might be doing this because those roundabouts are being constructed, I think it's appropriate for us to do this from a safety standpoint and traffic pattern. The other thing that is important is what you're also talking about that's not within this particular recommendation, but the other work that we're doing with the White Lake Police Department and making that whole road, Oxbow in front of Oxbow School, safer, because we know that the traffic pattern, the stacking is one thing, but it's also the speed is the other. And I applaud the work that the school district's been doing in conjunction with White Lake Police to slow that traffic down and to make it much more secure and safe for our kids. So I appreciate that. Next, 23-24 Oakland Schools ISD budget. Oakland Schools is our intermediate school district. Our treasurer, Cotter, along with Mr. Van Goten, had already talked about that a little bit. But with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Salah, who's going to turn it over to Mr. Van Goten.
I actually am going to take this one, believe it or not. So I appreciate Mr. Van Gotham walking through the high level information that we received from Oakland Schools to provide some context regarding the budget, which every board in the county is required to review and either approve or disapprove. I wanted to provide a little more context, even in addition to what Mr. Van Gotham shared, because I can't tell you how many times I've had the question, what does an intermediate school district even do? I've had board members ask me that in the past. I've had elected officials ask me that. I've even had legislative officials really kind of push back on sort of the notion that ISDs are duplicative and really don't offer support to local school districts. And I just want to spend a few minutes providing some education and some information regarding the role and the function of an ISD. So ISDs were actually created by the legislature in 1962. There are 56 intermediate school districts across the state of Michigan. They provide a variety of supports and expertise based upon the individual context of counties and what their specific needs are. So prior to my serving as superintendent of the Huron Valley Schools, I was actually an associate superintendent for the Wayne Regional Services Agency. And we provided, when I was at Wayne County, specific support based upon the context of Wayne County. Wayne County is very different than Oakland County. Just the service to Detroit in and of itself provided a very different context than perhaps what you would see in Oakland County. Myself, Mr. Tavernier, Mr. Van Gotham, Ms. Wagner, and Ms. Rothler all participate in county-wide professional groups where we are looking at and discussing the current trends in our county in order to provide service to our local school districts. I in fact, serve on the teaching and learning equivalent for the county with a group of superintendents. Just today we had a meeting, and what we discussed was support to local school districts, specifically what's provided at the ISD through professional learning versus what they're seeing requests from local school districts around in terms of support. And what we're seeing is, this is not going to be a surprise to anyone that's on this board, early literacy, That's a big focus for the county and the ISD. There's a need for professional learning at the ISD, as well as sending consultants into local school districts. Early numeracy, which we have talked about, right, John, several times. Secondary numeracy, so secondary mathematics is an area of focus. Mental health support, huge area of focus that the ISD is trying to wrap their arms around because they're getting so many calls from local school districts asking for support. And this is going to be a shocker, school safety. So just ISD recognizing based upon phone calls they get and data collection that they're conducting in and of themselves, developing a robust plan to service local school districts. So big supports from an instructional perspective in those areas. Additionally, career technical education centers exist throughout Oakland County. We are very privileged as a school district. Oftentimes, we use not only the slots that are afforded to us as a school district, but we tend to grab up the slots that are not used by other school districts. So not every school district utilizes all of the spaces that are available for students. So we send over 150 juniors and seniors to our technical campuses who will graduate with a specific skill that they will be able to go out and then oftentimes have a certificate and earn $60,000 or $70,000 a year graduating from high school, or enroll in a skilled trades program where they can become an apprentice and or grow their educational experience. So the services that they provide from a career technical education perspective are incredibly invaluable. And that's just another example of context by county. Wayne Risa, for example, did not provide career technical education supports. That was left up to the local district. Whereas in Oakland County, we have centers where our dollars are, where there is a millage that's levied to provide support in that area. Special education support. We received Act PA 18 monies. Mr. Van Gogham spoke to that, but the only thing I would add to what he said is that we also have center-based programs. So sometimes what we can provide in terms of a least restrictive environment for students that qualify for special education is not sufficient. And in order to meet the educational needs of that child, there are actual center-based programs throughout Oakland County that we can send a child to in order to help them get their free and appropriate education in what we call a least restrictive environment, so that they can be successful academically and based on whatever their disability might be. You heard Mr. Van Gogham speak to the HR and business pieces, so I won't touch on that. I don't know if you've ever seen the STEMI classroom. It's a large, not a trailer. Well, it is kind of a trailer, but it's like the size of a semi-truck. And it's literally a STEM lab on wheels. And it travels from school district to school district. And classrooms take field trips. And they actually can go into this trailer and learn about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity that Oakland Schools provides for us. They also provide financial subsidies and consortium pricing on really important initiatives that support our school district. So Illuminate is our data warehouse system. We use it to administer assessments online. It allows us to gather data and use that data to make decisions about curriculum instruction and assessment. Atlas Rubicon, which we publish publicly, is our curriculum warehouse system. We receive the benefits of the discounted pricing for that, career cruising, discovery education streaming. We also, especially in this day and age, we also reap the benefits of VLAC, which is the Virtual Learning Academy Consortium. So there have been instances where, the face-to-face setting is just not working for students. It's not the vast majority of our kids, but it might be 5, it might be 10. We can send students, keep them as Huron Valley students, but they can complete their education completely virtually, and Oakland Schools provides that for us. They also provide the accelerated college program where students can earn their high school diploma and a associate's degree at the same time. Graduation Alliance is another program that supports dropouts, and in some instances we've even used Grad Alliance as opposed to expelling a student. It's an alternative path to help a child not end up a statistic and a dropout, because we know that when children drop out, they're oftentimes they oftentimes end up in the system and they become incarcerated and worse. They support GSRP. They provide early childhood specialists that actually come in and audit our early childhood programming. That is a requirement by the state. And Mr. Van Gotham also mentioned cybersecurity, but I would just highlight weaknesses in our technology system, multi-factor authentication, security threat detections, phishing exercises and simulations. And for those of you who do not know, Oakland Schools is actually our internet provider. We have fiber that runs from Oakland Schools to us as a school district to provide us with reasonable pricing and reliable pricing, because they actually have internet sources from they have more than one company. So there's redundancies, which is something that we couldn't necessarily do as a local school district. So for those of you out there who are wondering, I thought that additional context might be helpful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salah. It was very beneficial. Yes, Ms. Pastana?
Just a question. Do we have access to the actual budget? Can I look at it online or?
We have a hard copy. I'm not sure if it's available online, Jeffrey.
I have not seen an online version. I do know we have a hard copy in the office. And do you still have the copy that I provided you as the board, or did you?
No, I gave it back to you to share.
So
with
I have
the
a couple
rest of
copies in my office. If you'd like to borrow one,
I would
happy
like
to provide you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I already had a chance to review it. Oh, here's one right here. Look at that. How about that? I never go without it.
It's riveting reading, I'll tell you.
And this, once again, is new business tonight, and we'll ask for a recommendation to approve at the next board meeting. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is a second opportunity for anyone in the public that is here today to have any comments that you'd like to make on non-agenda items. Do we have any? Seeing none, good and welfare. Ms. Pastana.
So first I want to thank Mrs. Cotter for inviting us and including us at her table at Blessings in a Backpack fundraiser. It was a great night, and I think they raised a good amount of money. I didn't hear the final total, but it was really important to be there. Along that same line, they are doing a flower fundraiser. The turnaround is quick. The sale ends on May 4th. But if you have a question, I think the board each got an email from Pam Barkholtz, and you can either contact her or you can contact me, and I will send you the form. But, it's another way to support the kids in our district, and Blessings in the Backpack is a, great program. And so if you can support it, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Dimick.
I was just going to remind everybody that tomorrow, along with it being a no school day, tomorrow evening, I think it's Hungry Howie's that they're doing the funding where some of the funds go back to the schools. So I know at least a couple of the elementaries are participating. So order some pizza tomorrow night from Hungry Howie's and, help out your schools.
Terrific. Thank you. Ms. Cotter.
Yeah, just real quick. Again, I'd like to thank Mrs. Pastana and Mr. Dimick. They both did attend the Blessings in a Backpack on Saturday night. And I appreciate the Huron Valley optimists that support that program and bring it into Huron Valley. Likewise, the recognition they gave this board that night for being supportive of the program.
Right. We all know what Blessings in the Backpack is, and you've been involved in it for many, many years. Could you give a 7-Eleven background info on what Blessing in the Backpack is and how it positively affects our district?
Yes, Blessings in a Backpack is actually a national weekend food program that our Huron Valley optimists started with a pilot program here in Huron Valley, and it grew from one school. Now it's available in all of our schools. The money that is raised feed children on the weekend. Each Friday, a bag of foodstuffs for the weekend are given to the children to take home so they can have nourishment during the weekend. And on average, the price has gone up. We used to say it costs $100 a year to feed a child on a weekend. well, now it's up to $130 a year. But in funding, I always just certainly make a contribution if I'm feeding at least one kid. But in addition to the Huron Valley Optimists, I also have to thank our parent groups and our administrators in each building, because they organize the program in their own building and have a way of getting the food to the children in such a way that it's a private donation. So I do thank the Optimists, and I thank those members of the community who continue to donate, because it makes it possible for our students that are on free and reduced lunch to get food to take home on the weekends. So that's blessings in a backpack.
Thank you very much. Amy?
I just want to wish our high school students, our IAs, they're starting to take those IB exams, but our AP students are also taking their exams this week too. And, you know, they've prepared all year for these exams. And I just say good luck. I know that you're going to be successful. I'm very optimistic. I love those optimists too. But I just say good luck to you. Get some sleep, hydrate. You've got this.
Right. Thank you. Any other comments? I know, looking at my calendar, and my calendar is reflective of all of your calendars, this is a very exciting month. As you were saying, Amy, we have a lot of honors assemblies celebrating all the hard work that our students have done over the year and years. Time goes by pretty fast. I bet you there's a lot of parents that are thinking, well, I remember when Johnny just went to kindergarten orientation and got the first chance to ride on that yellow bus, and now that same young person is graduating from one of our high schools. So it's an exciting time. It's a fun time to be on the board, because we get to celebrate with those parents and have fun basking in the glow of all the work that they've done. So it sounds, I try to hesitate from saying this, but does take a whole village to get these students to where they are. And I just want to say thank you to the parents, because without them, they give us and they entrust us their most precious gift, don't they? And like I said, we're basking in their glow and their pride. So thank you, parents, for trusting us and Huron Valley schools as a whole with their most precious cargo. So with that, seeing no other comments, do it, Ms. Cotter. Meeting is adjourned.